everybody, Jared with Second Life Design. Got a little bit different of a project today. We're going to get into some wood veneering. I think that's something not a lot of people think of or not a lot of people consider when working on projects, and I think you should. It is a good option to kind of dress up old pieces, or if you're doing something on a budget and you want to look at kind of get a maximum effect on a budget, it's another really good option. So this one's going to be related to the exact thing I'm working on, but I think the tips kind of in here may kind of inspire you to work on your own projects and kind of open some new doors as far as what veneering can do for you. So follow along and hopefully this help you out. Okay, so here's our piece for today. This is it's actually a former front door. I got this from a client and they were going to toss it. I said, no, I can dress this up and make it into a nice piece again. And that's what we're going to do. It worked many years well for them because it's super heavy and it's really rigid and square. The edges are all rounded over, as you can expect. That's what I got to work on first to get this thing ready to veneer and edge band. Anytime you do any kind of big case work like this, you need to have hard 90-degree edges. You cannot have anything rounded over, anything like that. The veneer is so thin that it will break over, and it'll tear the piece of veneer, and it just won't look right. So we got to get some hard edges on this thing. One option would be to run this through a saw and square up all the edges that way. Make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to elect to put some new material on the outside. I got some 1/2-inch poplar. I'm going to wrap around this thing, and then I can sand that all flat and square, and it'll be in good shape. So let me do that real quick, and we'll kind of fill in some details as we're going along. Okay, so we've got all the 1/2-inch stuff gone all the way around it. We're going to have a good square edge to work with. I'm going to let this glue set up a little bit, and I'm going to take a router and flush trim this down to the surface of the door. So it'll be all the way around. It'll be a nice square piece. And then all the rest of the time I'm going to do a lot of sanding, and I'm going to use some Bondo, some automotive Bondo, to fill all the holes and voids. If the gap is really wide between these two, I'm going to fill that in. When you're doing any kind of veneering or laminate work, you want to use Bondo as the fill material should you need to fill in any voids, holes, discrepancies, whatever. You do not want to use a wood filler, as it will shrink and crack and leave you voids or depressions underneath the veneer, and that is all bad. So definitely use automotive Bondo. It's a really quick, easy, cheap product. You don't have to be, it doesn't take hours to cure. If you get it mixed right in 20-30 minutes, it's fully cured and ready to sand. Again, the whole key here is getting 90-degree edges to go against. That's what is going to give us the best final product. So it's like doing tile work or putting wallpaper up or anything. It's all in the prep work of getting this thing good and square. So that's what we're going to continue to do. Okay, I've worked ahead a little bit. I've got everything Bondoed, ready to go. So I've got this 1/2-inch poplar going all the way around. And that's going to be my hard edge, my square edge that everything's going to reference off of. So this is, as I said, this is different in my case because I'm taking an existing piece. If I were making this out of plywood, I would have hard edges to begin with, and I wouldn't have to do this. But again, the principle is you need a hard 90-degree edge if you are going to laminate or veneer anything. That I cannot stress that enough. Whatever is underneath will show through your laminate or veneer. So get a good hard edge on it. If you're using a power sander, keep it flat. Do not turn it on its side. That's just a bad practice anyway, but especially in this case, you do not want anything rounded over. That would be all bad. So, got some good straight edges. I'm going to put the edge banding on first. I'm sure that'll be a point of contention with somebody where they'll say I need to put the edge banding on last so it covers up the top veneer. My thinking is by putting the edge banding on first, the top goes over it, and then as your arms are on here, they're going to rake over the top veneer and not peel back the edge banding if it were on last. So whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. That's the way I'm doing it. Accept it. Do it however you want. That's the way I'm doing it. All right, at this point, we're ready to start putting our finished veneer and edge banding on. This is where everything, double check all the square edges. There is no really turning back from here. You can't go back to the construction phase once you start this. This is your present is in the box and you're gonna wrap it up. That's, I don't know how else to say it. So all sanding, all bondoing, all gluing, all that needs to be done at this point. There's a couple specific tools. I think they're cheap. Nothing's really super expensive when you're doing any edge banding, any veneering, laminate work, whatever. So let me just show you a couple of the ones that I'm gonna use for the edge banding, and you'll use those same ones when you're doing the veneer work as well. First thing is a J roller. This is a J roller, a laminate roller. There's different shapes to these. You can get them, they're a lot wider. This is just a super hard rubber that is very flat, and what this is gonna do is to help bond things to the wood. So, you know, these are $10 on Amazon. Search laminate roller, search J roller. You'll find them all over. Second thing, one squeeze bottle full of lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner is an instant release solvent for the contact adhesive. So if something goes wrong, you need to get it off really quick. You need to break that bond to reset something. Lacquer thinner, a couple drips of lacquer thinner will pop that right off, and it's not going to tear anything, not going to damage anything. You know, the squeeze bottles you can get at Walmart, you know, for 90 cents. Fill it with lacquer thinner, have it nearby. A sanding block, really specific in the sense that it's flat on a piece of wood. I've taken these, you know, sheet sandpaper and glued it to a sheet. Nothing really, you know, kind of come up with your own thing here. This one's 80 grit. You can use 120, 150, whatever. And that just kind of goes on your sanding style. But this is, you know, I talk about all the parallel edges or perpendicular edges you need. This is how you're going to maintain those and keep those crisp lines, is by sanding flat across a sheet and keeping everything even, nice and tight. Standard box knife, utility knife, box cutter, whatever you want to call it, razor blade and a handle. This is what I use to do a lot of my trimming. It works a little bit better for me than using a router. I think if something's a little bit thicker, a router works. I've just had some issues in the past where it can get a lot out of hand. So I like the conjunction of a razor knife and my sanding block, and I can do a lot of trimming in a lot quicker way without making a big mess. And I've got another small sanding block for touching things up, hitting little small spots. Again, all this is actual wood, it's just paper thin. So you can still sand it the same way, but you can't get really too crazy because you can go through the backing really quickly and it's really bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the edge banding on, and we'll get some video of that and then keep on going. Again, wrapping up the present here. The box has to be perfect, then we can put the wrapping paper on it and we're done. Okay, I want to touch base on this real quick. I think this is where a lot of people mess up when they're doing their edge banding. Especially this wider stuff, you gotta heat this stuff up a whole lot to get it to really stick. And you know, this one, the wide stuff, it gets wrinkles in it. You can kind of see them a little bit. It looks like it's not sticking. You just gotta keep, just as long as you think you should heat it, go a little longer, and it'll stick on there. This isn't as quick of a process as what you would imagine. It's really important to kind of push this in, you know, against the edges, really burnish it in, and don't be afraid to let it sit here for, you know, let the iron sit and really heat up that glue. It takes a lot more than what people think it does. It may start to stick a little bit, but it's not enough to really where it's bonding it to the wood. So it really has to stick. Go over it again, looking for any gaps. Again, really burnish that down. This is my standard household iron, and I have it turned up as high as it'll go. It's my garage iron now. This is pretty well where it stays. It's good and warm. I'm gonna hit it with the J roller. And this really pushes a lot more than what you can do with the iron. Again, burnish those edges, and the more effort you put in keeping everything 90 degrees and perpendicular, the better this is going to turn out. Okay. Feels like it's pretty solid. There may be some pieces that are, like on the bottom that are off a little bit. I'm going to flip this over to trim the bottom off, but I think we can fix that as we're going. This stuff can be reheated and we'll be okay. So the top looks good. We'll flip it over when we trim that and take another look then. Okay, I mentioned using my box knife to trim this in conjunction with my sanding block. I'm going to back it up like this, where I have a piece supporting the back of it, and we're going to go across the front, or the back side I guess, and we're going to score this. You want to be really careful doing this. You can, if you're doing this really aggressively, you can open yourself up. You'll be bleeding all over the place. I've been there, done that. Don't make my mistake. So some light cuts. That will be perfect each and every time. Hit it with a little sanding block and you are good to go. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about trimming, whether it be of edge banding or veneer. I think this is something that I do a little differently. I've seen it done this way a few times. It works better for me. You can absolutely take a router and, like the flush trim bit and go across this, and it'll be smooth as can be, and that's the way to go. It's one way to go. I prefer using a razor, and the reason I like this a little bit better is I have a little more control of the cut. Sometimes this stuff can be a little stringy. It's really easy for it to break apart along the grain line. So it can, it can fracture, and then it goes down below, and then you're effed. Like there's nothing you can do. You got to replace the piece of edge banding. So this stuff gets kind of flimsy anyway. It kind of gets broken over just a little bit, kind of like that. I like to come in with your razor knife, just work. You'll go at a slow pace. Work that off of there. And that will be totally flat, and you have more control over it. So go over that with sanding block. I'll hit this whole thing with my power sander, but I like this method. It's really quick, doesn't make a mess, and you're getting the pieces off there just the same way. And it just kind of gets you a better idea of where the high spots are. There's one right here. I can try and come back. Take another little light cut there. Okay, totally flat there. So razor knife instead of a router, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Okay, at this point, I cut my veneer out. I oversized this by a couple inches on each side. All of the sides on the edge banding are all smooth. They're all good. They're at the point where they can be finished right now. So this is the last piece of the puzzle. This is my veneer, and it's cut out. We're going to start doing the adhesion. One quick tip or word about this stuff: it is like paper. It is not, it's pretty flimsy. You need to be careful when you're flipping it over, when you're unrolling it, unfurling it, whatever. If it snaps, like where it snaps over, it will break the veneer, and it's just done. It's ruined. So be careful unrolling it, taking care of when you're flipping it over. I've ruined a piece just because it snapped over on me, and there's nothing you can do. There's no coming back. You just got to get another one. This is my adhesive. I'll freeze this for a second. So this is from 3M. This is a water-based contact adhesive. The typical contact adhesive, it's really cheap. It's available at every home center. It's everywhere. It smells very, very strong. It has a very high chemical odor. This stuff is water-based. It has next to no smell, and it dries very quickly. This stuff does cost a lot more. Like a regular quart of contact adhesive is, 10, 12 bucks at the home center. This stuff is like 38. But to me, I'm not using a ton of it. It's worth it to get this stuff in the sense that it doesn't smell. I'm in a small shop, and yeah, it's just a lot better off for everybody using the water-based stuff. I'm putting this on just with a foam roller, nothing special, regular 4-inch weenie roller. We're going to roll this over the whole damn thing. We'll put 2 light coats on here. The key with contact adhesive is it has to dry before it works. If you try and put this together when it's wet, it will never stick, it will never adhere, it just won't work. So you have to put it on and let it completely dry to the touch where it is not tacky whatsoever. Because I'm in a small shop, I'm going to put 2 coats. I'm going to put a coat on, let it dry, put another coat on here, then take the veneer and set it off to the side, and then do the mating, the tabletop. So normally you could do those 2 at the same time, but I don't have enough kind of square footage to lay something out, so here we are, just making the best of it. Okay, here we are, the moment of truth. The contact adhesive is dry. I've got 2 coats on the tabletop. I've got 2 coats on the veneer. This is where you can't get in a hurry. You have to kind of just be prepared, take your time. We're going to use some stickers to hold the veneer up away from the tabletop. So this is completely coated, but it is not sticky whatsoever. So I've got these wood stickers, and they do not stick to it. So what this is going to allow us to do is place the veneer over and kind of position things as we need to. So I'm going to be talking and working at the same time here, so just bear with me. I talked about having the lacquer thinner available and ready to go. This is why you're going to have that stuff ready. In case something sticks and you don't want it to, you need to be able to get that off really quickly. So, working. We're going to get this set up here right now. Okay. Positioned around. I need a taller shop. Okay. It's sitting roughly in place. It is not stuck yet, and that is good, but I can still move it around should I need to. We're going to kind of roughly position this. You know, when you're cutting this out, you want to look to see where, you know, if you want to add, you know, what the grain, you want to keep this close to that position or whatever. This one is all pretty straight grain, so I wasn't really too picky. Once you get where you're happy with it, you know you're overhanging on all sides. I start from one end and work my way back. So we're going to remove a couple stickers. And stick it down. This is where having your J roller is going to be really handy. So this is what's going to really tamp that down. Make sure it's not going to go anywhere on you. So, okay, this is a perfect example right here. It sagged down a little bit. I'm going to take just a couple drops of contact adhesive, and it doesn't really affect any. It doesn't really affect it a whole lot. Once the the lacquer thinner kind of flashes off, you can go right back to sticking it on there, and it's okay. So if something gets stuck on there, don't freak out, don't panic. Let the lacquer thinner do its thing. It's going to break that bond, but it's not going to kind of break the membrane, if you will, of this. So just, you know, work patiently, but don't get in a hurry. Yeah, as this adhesive, as the lacquer thinner flashes off, you'll be right back in business. No reason to panic. So at this point, I'm going to take all these stickers off because I've got one end started. Got a position to remove it. probably gonna get some air bubbles you gotta work out. Okay, picking this up the next day. I've got everything trimmed, rolled, flat, clean, sanded, beautiful, ready for finish. Because this is wood, just like anything else, you can use any kind of finishing product you want. I like Odie's oil. It's really flat, lets the wood grain kind of do tell the story of what's in there, and it's really easy to repair. So that's what I'm going to go with. As far as repairs, if you get a scratch or a gouge in this, it depends on the thickness of the veneer. They can come in different thicknesses. Some can be sanded, some cannot. I would be very careful in sanding. I wouldn't go less than 150 grit and just do a really light, even sanding. Definitely keep your sander flat if you're using a power sander. If you tip it up on edge, you will burn through this and you're done. You gotta get a new sheet, and that's all there is to it. So I hope this helps. You know, I'm sorry for some of the weird angles. My shop is really cluttered right now, but there's not a lot to this. It's a pretty straightforward process. You know, there's a lot of good options about this, you know, of things you can do. This is an old door. If you had an existing piece of furniture, you could recover it. If you had a bunch of scraps of plywood, you could make a really nice looking bookcase and put veneer down the side. You know, there's a lot of different options. John Peters has done a lot of really good videos as far as veneer work and, you know, how to use it for cabinetry and things. This is a little bit bigger scale. That's the only reason I did this one. So I'll do a little more cleanup, put some Odie's oil on it, and it'll be done. So this has been a quick, fun project. I've probably got, with videoing and getting everything cut and trimmed and everything, maybe 6 hours in it. You know, I wouldn't be able to make a full tabletop in that time. So yeah, really sharp. It has a look as if it's 3 different pieces, where it's like 1, 2, 3 boards. So, you know, it'll be a fun kind of thing when you have people over for dinner to see if they realize that it is not real wood. The only real indicator to somebody who knows would be on the end. You know, you can't really tell too much on the edge grain, on the side grain, but the end grain's the dead giveaway, where it's just more veneer. So it's what it is, but, you know, I've got $150, $160 in this between the veneer and the adhesive. You wouldn't be able to build this out of solid wood for that much, so that's what it is. Any questions, drop them down below. Hit me up on Instagram at Second Life Design. I'm able to get back to there a little bit more frequently, so if you need something really quickly, let me know on there. Thank you for all the subscribers. Getting some more content out. Please hit the like button. Anything else I can do, let me know. Thanks.